In almost every single adventure-based TTRPG, there are very few comparable moments of reward than when your GM says, you gain a level. And your table normally explodes with excitement, and right then and there, you're ready to start investing in the evolution of your character. And that excitement exists because in most classical TTRPGs, it's a long term investment, a trek, an adventure before you get to those points of reward. And that pace is 100% okay. But I've also played that pace for many years in games like Dungeons and Dragons, where I played multiple years before I even got to level 15, if I even got to that point, and never hit the cap of level 20. And there's arguments on whether that's worth investing in, but that's not what this video is about. What this video is about is the other approach that comes from Fabula Ultima, because in their system, they have 50 levels per character. And to get through that, you need a fast-paced leveling system that evolves with the story you're telling and the evolution of your character classes. That's why in this episode of How to Fabula Ultima, we're going to invest our time in learning about XP and leveling up. Let's check it out. Now, before I get started, I normally like to give a shout out to all the Fabula folk who have subscribed to my channel. And this little bit is going to be a little bit longer than normal because it's coming with the feels. As of today, I am now officially over 500 subscribers. I'm sitting at 502, I think. And I'm still trying to process it. I know for many other YouTubers and other content creators, 500 is a pebble, a little ripple in their grand lake of things. But for me, to be invested in a niche type of game system like Fabula Ultima, which is growing, and to put out content that so many people have come and seen me and said, okay, I like what this guy's presenting, is so overwhelmingly warm to me. And I'm not usually one that really out expresses my emotions a lot. I'm more of a one-on-one person. I don't normally spotlight myself in certain aspects to that level. And I just want to say sincerely thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel, who keeps giving me feedback, who's part of the Fabula Vault and goes with my streaming, who wants to put their 2 cents into their experience with this game. I sincerely mean this when this is a community that is growing, and I want you to feel part of it. And that's why, as I said in my last video, once I've achieved 500 subscribers, I am going to do a live stream session 0 with a group of few people from the community that I'm just going to be kind of talking to and recruiting. And then on top of that, there's going to be some live audience interactions while we build up from ground up. I'm hoping it'll be fun and an experience where anyone who is interested from starting from scratch, they can kind of see how this game develops. So once again, over 500 subscribers. I am so overwhelmed, but also deeply moved. And I want to say thank you once again to everyone. And the fact that this is a collaborative narrative game. It talks about synergy and showcasing teamwork and really just expressing the great community. I'm going to do something next on my next little snippet here that I've never done before, but I feel it's a necessity to pay it forward. And that is going to be highlighting an artist that has put a lot of love into the JRPG world and showcase their own art that represents Final Fantasy. And it has made me a patron to them. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight them in the next snip. So the spotlight I want to put on is an artist that I happen to just kind of find on my own fruition when I was going through Etsy. I always look for Final Fantasy JRPG theme type of art for Christmas or holiday gifts from my friends that share a similar joy for those type of things. And I came across someone just recently by the name of Shannon Hochman. You can find them on Etsy under Hochmonster. I will provide all the links in my description, but they have been more than impressive with the art that they put in. They do multiple sets of tarot cards that are in the line of, believes The Legend of Zelda. Mine that stood out was Final Fantasy. There's Final Fantasy 9 art, 6, 4, and the artwork is very similar to the one of my favorites, Yoshitaka Amano, who did a lot of the old classic art for all the older Final Fantasy games. They have a tarot card set for Final Fantasy 14 and so many other great things that they can have prints of. They do custom orders of artwork. They actually just recently did a custom piece for one of my players for my Fabula Ultima game, and it has really showcased their love for this type of style. So it only made sense to me. This is not a paid promotion or anything like that. This is me spotlighting someone that shows their love for these type of games in a different avenue. And I felt it was only necessary for having now over 500 subscribers that showcase some sort of interest to this type of vein and theme to give them a check out. If you do find anything you like from them and you do purchase something, let them know Voices in the Dungeon sent you over. I'm not getting any cutbacks or anything like that. It's just simply wanting to let them know that they're part of the community, and I welcome them aboard. So once again, in my description, you'll find those type of links, and I hope you support them in the way I did. I've got about 5 prints coming in, and I'm excited to get them in very soon. Okay, we're finally at the point that I'm sure you clicked the link to begin with about this, and I appreciate you listening to the last bit. But we're going to jump into XP and leveling up. Now, real quick, we're going to make this a relatively quick video because the concept is relatively easy and there's not a lot to cover. But as always in my videos, I want to present an articulate showcase for people new to the game and interested. They can find this concept, pick up the book, learn it pretty quickly. That being said, we're going to go ahead and just do a quick recap of what it means to have a level in a class. When you start in Fabula Ultima as a very first, I wouldn't say first level character, a starting character, you start at 5 levels with class investment. And if you want to understand more about that, you can just check out my recent video on class build philosophy. I go over that a little bit more in depth. But in that, you can level all the way to 50 levels. And in doing so, you need to get XP to get to each level up. And we're going to break that down right now. Now, there's 3 ways to acquire experience points, also known as XP points. And when you do that, it is all done in one session. And there's actually a reference on your character sheet for Fabula Ultima if you get it from Need Games website, or if you have another platform, maybe a VTT of some sort, it usually has some sort of quick reference. But we're going to go down really quickly on what those 3 are. And the first one is, no matter what, at the end of your session, you gain 5 XP points. That is supposed to underline the successions and the accomplishments of what your characters have done, no matter what, whether you're delving in dungeons or fighting monsters, or maybe even just hanging out at the inn or some sort of boutique and having a shopping episode and expressing your bonds and gaining your relationships with your characters that you're playing with. No matter what, you're gaining 5 XP points. And it's worth noting in the core rulebook that this is usually indicated as a session that equals out about 4 hours of gameplay. So you might want to be a little wary on that. If your sessions are only like 2 hours, you might want to translate it that you get 5 XP points per 4 hours of gameplay. But in most cases, my sessions rule into about 3.5, and I keep it within the vein of 1 session equals 5 XP. Then there's the second, which is anytime an Ultima point is expended by a villain, your characters gain 1 XP point. So if there's 1 Ultima point used, 1 XP point, 2 XP points. You're seeing how this cumulatively adds up. Then the third and final is, once again, at the end of the session, you take the amount of Fabula points that are spent by your entire party and you divide it by the party group number. And that average amount translates to XP points that apply to your XP pool. So now that your party's accumulated a bit of XP, what do you do with it? How do you spend it? When do you spend it? Well, the system is very easy and it doesn't change no matter how high in level you get. Once you hit a cap of 10 XP, you gain a level. And that can actually accumulate past that 10-point threshold through a couple of sessions. So, for example, let's say the first session you only gain 6 XP points from the very first session, but then the second session you gain 8 with a cumulative amount of 14. Well, you've now taken 10 of that and you gain a level. 10 of those points are wiped out, but you still have a carryover of 4 XP points. So that means going into the next session, you already have 4 invested in that point pool. So what that also means is the next session, you gain automatically another 5 for ending the session, putting it 9. And then I'm willing to bet you either a ultimate point's going to be spent for 1 EXP, or there's going to be enough Fabula points spent to average out enough new EXP points. So you already level again in the next session. So you can see basically expenditure of Fabula points really helps accelerate this already default amount of points whenever you end a session, and you can gain levels pretty darn quickly. So it actually helps with whenever you level up, you're needing these skill points to level up your class to achieve a master of it at level 10. And as you're doing that, it's actually pretty easy to evolve your character with your expenditures into your levels while you're telling the story of who they are. And I think it's one of the best ubiquitous parts of the system that really marry well into each other. A few points of interest also to cover when it comes to leveling up. Every time you level up, you can change your identity, your theme, or whatever to go with the narrative carryover of the game's playthrough. And normally when you do that, whatever you want to change it to, you want to make sure to give some sort of story point why this is happening, why there is a change in your identity. It's a fun thing that happens pretty frequently since you level up so quickly, and there's never a new cap. Like in old JRPGs, usually every time you level, the max XP cap is increased. That's not the case in this game. So you can always have things at the ready to adapt and evolve your character as you level up. It's also worth noting that if you get to a point where you feel like your character has capped their worth in the story of the game, the whole point of the game is not to get to level 50. That's rarely the point in any TTRPG. But at the same time, you can say this character has done their thing. Maybe they have a quirk like the Ruin Bringer and they brought something into this world, and that's really the end of their existence as far as a narrative purpose. Or you can build off of it and continue on. But nonetheless, don't feel stymied to have to maintain your character if you feel that it's gotten a little slow into the expression of the story. Always look to do some new things creatively, whether it's with the same character or something new. Now that we got the basics and fundamentals covered on XP and leveling up, it's simple. You could walk away from this video and say, I get it, cool, that's all I need. However, in the core rulebook, they do have a few sections of optional rules that can add on to the XP gain if that's what you're looking for. And it's also worth noting, you can apply it anytime in the game, and if you think it might be getting a little too out of control, you can take it away. There's nothing wrong with that. Fabula Ultimate is a very forgiving game in learning what pace is right for you. So some games you might want to have a very high active, high energy, quick leveling system, and you're just all about boom, boom, boom going forward. Or you might want to just set it back a bit and make it a little bit more of a narrative growth and just play it a little slower. Either way, you can really pace it, but even at the default basics, getting 5 XP points default, and if nothing else is achieved, you're still looking about every 2 sessions gaining a level. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and look at these optional injections. Even though there's something that I haven't quite experienced it's worth noting that everyone's different and they want to play their style different. So these options are a possibility. Okay, I thought it'd be a little easier to kind of do what I've done in the past to show the rule output on this. I usually don't like fine-tooth combing it, but at the same time, these are rules that I have not actively applied myself, and I haven't had a lot of back and forth from people that have either. So I want to make sure it is explained right, but at the same time, it still underlines my expression that it really defines the pace of what you want to play in Fabula Ultima. And some of this I already just discussed, but it says right here, what is important for you to understand is that the optional XP rules you apply will inevitably shift the focus of your game. After all, people generally tend to do what they are rewarded for. So always keep that in mind. Now, there is a option here called Blitz, and it's going to also talk about using what are called superiority points, which is something that I want to actually cover in my combat video that I'll be doing very soon. So just keep in mind, if you're interested in this and you have the core rulebook, if you want to check it out on your own, but otherwise I will have it invested in a video very soon. But that being said, in Blitz, player characters will gain additional experience at the end of each battle in which all enemies fled or were reduced to 0 hit points. The amount gained by each character will be equal to, in parentheses, 5 minus the number of rounds elapsed during the battle. This means that any battle conceded during the 6th round will grant no additional experience, while a battle that was completed in the 1st round will award 5 XP to each participant. That is a huge gain, and the term Blitz makes a lot of sense on that, since it's basically blitzing the acceleration of leveling in this game. Now, it also states that these additional experience points are gained by all characters who took part in the battle, even if they surrendered or fled at a certain point. And then also has a recommendation, and this is what I was prefacing earlier. Combine this with superiority points in page 83, sorry, my little hands are shaky, for a highly tactical game. This does give a little bit more crunch and style to combat that some people might be looking for, and it's something, like I said, I'm going to cover in another video. It does state under the disclaimer here, let me make sure you're visually seeing it on my screen. Yes, you are. It's good if you like your battle speed intensely tactical and you're okay with your campaign mostly revolving around combat. For me, that's what I was trying to move from. I do enjoy combat. I think combat is a very important thing in TTRPGs and the expression of building your character classes, but I don't want it to be the base. I have plenty of other options for war games and all that. I love the narrative. I love the collaborative expression of Fabula Ultima. But at the same time, if people like it crunchy, the crunch is here. Now, it does say if you choose this optional rule, the game master will have to spend some more time making sure each encounter is challenging, but also allows for clever strategies. That coming out with the new bestiary, I think that will complement that. But we'll go ahead and head on to the next option, which is Booster. And it states here that each player will automatically gain a level. Pardon me on my lack of highlight. Each player character will automatically gain a level at the end of each session, in addition to normal advancement. That is out of this world bonkers. And if that's the route you're wanting to go, do it. It states specifically here, it is good if, highlight this, your campaign will be relatively short. The players like to have plenty of new tricks every session, and if you don't mind turning your game into a quickly escalating spiral of mayhem. It self-admits in the core rulebook that this option is going to make things bonkers and out of control. But if that's what you're looking to do, that's fine. That was majority of my time frame when I first learned TTRPGs, when I was in like my late, I think I started when I was 8 or 9 and then to my early teens. I didn't have the mindset to create story and pace. We just did crazy crap all the time and we thought it was hilarious. If this is a new game system you're bringing in and you're younger and you want to do silly stuff, give this part a go. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Just know that there's other options in relation to playing with other people in Fabula Ultima. We're now going to go to the next one, and this one I really do like. It is Embodiment, and I like it, but I don't like it. But it basically, we'll go ahead and read it real quick. It says, the group will vote for the player who better embodied their character's identity and or theme during a session. The chosen player's character gains an additional 2 XP. If 2 or more players are tied, they will each gain this bonus experience. A few rules apply, however. You cannot be awarded this bonus XP twice in a row, so no back-to-back games, and you cannot vote for yourself or for the game master to avoid other people to gain. That sounds a little sabotaging, and I don't think that's what they're getting at, but just keep that in mind. If you are using the optional rule as well as MVP, which is see below, the 2 rewards must go to different players. Vote for Embodiment before you vote for MVP. So this says it's good if you like to role play intense scenes and you don't run the risk of a single person outshining everyone else or making things uncomfortable by stealing the spotlight at the same time or all the time. If you see this happening, you should stop using this option. So this right there, this disclaimer is kind of why I don't like it. I do like the fact that you can, and people can do this to have inspiration to role play. It invites people to try more, but I also have a disdain for main character syndrome, and that feels like they're getting to control the narrative and they should always be bountiful and awarded for it. So be very cautious. If you trust your group, you know your group, that's great. If you have some hesitance, talk to the people before you do it. But it's also saying this can work in congruency with the MVP option, which down below states, The group will vote for a most valuable player, MVP, at the end of each session. The chosen player's characters gain an additional 2 XP. If 2 or more players are tied, they will each gain this bonus experience. Just like with Embodiment, you cannot be awarded with this bonus XP twice in a row, and you cannot vote for yourself or the Game Master. If you're using this optional rule as Embodiment, see above, the 2 rewards must go to different players. Vote for Embodiment before you vote for MVP. I probably wouldn't even put these together, but that's just me. Now, it does state this is good if your group wants to reward proactive players who take a hit for the team or turn the tables on their adversaries. That's me in a nutshell when I play. I like to think I do heroic things, but I also do a lot of self-sacrificing things. I don't do things to have the spotlight continually on me. I do things that impactfully help my group. So it's really great, but at the same time, always be cautious when what you're considering. So it is also worth noting that these obviously are showcasing a collaboration with them if they mention each other, but I would not put all of these together in any shape or form because they're pointless anyway, because if you're expending that many or getting that many XP points, you can only level once per session anyway. So it kind of defeats the point of trying to really build a pool really quickly. It's also worth noting that it says in the book that if these accelerations are liked, you may want to drop off the default basic of gaining 5 XP per level, or 5 XP per session, to allow a flow that is more in your control, but also still pretty constant. And then finally, when it comes to consideration of this, there is a disclaimer about level gaps. If you use the Embodiment or MVP option rules, some characters might end up being a few levels above others because they're ascending quicker because of these options. This system won't suffer unless this gap is 5 or greater, but you should carefully discuss whether the optional rules are fostering a healthy play environment. If someone is frustrated by these rules, even if it's only one person, you should stop using them. So once again, that goes back to me really trusting your group, trusting your team, trusting your players, trusting yourself. Be wary of what you want. And this goes with studying the game. I would never recommend throwing optional rules into the game until you had some experience. A lot of people like to think, though, oh, I can adapt, and you can adapt. You can also put this in later, as I said earlier, and remove it. But I'm more of a workshop type of person. I'd like to make sure things are doing as they're supposed to doing before I add new things, and that's how I am professionally as well. I don't like getting new prototype equipment or anything that hasn't really been tested before I start giving it to my customers to try. I like making sure I'm confident with what I'm giving as an option, and that's no different than in the games. So that being said, XP and leveling up is pretty easy at the base level of it. But as always, there's a lot of complexities you can add into this game, and it's always worth investing. And when you ever see something new like this, and I try to showcase it, it's easy to pick up, I'm always hoping you're willing to take the next step to learn more about it. That being said, I think this is a good coverage of XP and leveling up, and I'll see you on the outro. So this was a relatively quick video, but at the same time, I felt that was necessary, and I tried to make sure it was articulate for you to understand. Yes, there's complexities if you want to add in there, but in almost everything Fabula Ultima does, it starts with a core base that's usually easy to pick up and understand. And if they have you hooked, they have you interested, then you can start experimenting. And I think that's the best of the world of Fabula Ultima. So I hope you've really enjoyed what I've put forward in this. And I am hoping you're willing to experience the different options. And that being said, I'll be seeing you on the next video where I'll probably be going into combat and we'll start talking about superiority points. But also remember, I'm working on that video now for the session 0. That will be a live stream event for everyone. And after that, don't forget, I do the Fabula Vault every Saturday at least, where I am streaming Chrono Trigger for the very first time. And I'm going to continue to play other JRPGs that I've never played that have inspired Fabula Ultima. So that being said, as always, I hope you have a great day, I hope you have a great night, and I hope you find some time to play Fabula Ultima. I'll see you on the next video.